Okay, so my screen should be showing up in your view. There is a little delay, but it should be there by now. And what it is just my TCC. I'll just go to the home page. We'll just start from scratch. So once you log into my TCC, this is where you're at, and then I'll go into the course and show you what we're gonna do. I'm gonna show you 4 things in this presentation. One is I'm gonna show you how to download and set up Proctorio to be used for a test that is embedded inside Blackboard. It's definitely the easiest way to incorporate Proctorio because it is built all into Blackboard. But I'm also going to show you how to use Proctorio with a third-party site. Third-party site just means something outside Blackboard. So for all my math people, that's your Connect Math, WebAssign, Alex, Mymathlab, things like that. You know, science might have their own websites. I'm a math person, so I'm going to be using that jargon and using that example in a Mymathlab test. So that's what a third-party site means. I'm also going to show you a short video clip of what the student view is, because within your course, you do not, even if you flip to opening the test and taking it, you cannot see, hold on here, stop sharing that for a second. You cannot see the student side, so you don't really get the student experience with Proctorio. So what I've done is I've recorded that side of it, so I'll kind of show you, or I'll show you that too, so you can see exactly what the students are going to see. And then also really quickly show you where to get the results after your students take the test. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on the results because it's kind of a whole nother ball game. But I do at least want to show you where to find them. And then really the best thing to do, like with everything, is to get in there and just click on everything possible. If you've never used it before, it's totally okay if you mess it up, I promise. And nothing can be totally messed up to where you can't fix it. So it can be undone or reset, or you know what, we can do better on the next test. So don't get overwhelmed, first of all, with all the features inside Proctorio. I would try to keep it very simple. Just follow the simple guidelines that I'm going to set out today, and then run with it from there. Before I jump in with my TCC screen, is Teams a third-party site? Anything outside of Blackboard is, so yes, I would. I am not aware of anyone testing in Teams. That was a question in the chat, so I'm not going to be messing with testing within Teams. But a third-party site just means it's outside of Blackboard where the Proctorio is embedded. So before I jump into my TCC screen, and I'm going to turn off my beautiful mountain view, yes, Neela, this is being recorded and it will be available to everyone. Are there any more questions I can answer in the chat real quick before we dive in? Cool, we're gonna do it. I'm moving my mouse. I don't see any questions. No hands up. Okay, cool. So I'm gonna go back to sharing my screen, and so here is my TCC page. So I'm gonna go to a course, and I'm going into just a dummy course. It's called a sandbox shell, meaning, honestly, I don't know where that comes from, but I assume it's like a cat in a sandbox where you can just mess with stuff, move stuff around, blah blah. It's like a playground. So this isn't an actual course, just so you're aware. But this is where you would go for your actual course shell. So for example, I'm teaching pre-cal. This one would be a pre-cal course shell for the fall. So first thing, after you set up a test in Blackboard, this is not a training on how to set up a test within Blackboard. So what I have already done is set up a test that's already embedded in Blackboard. To have that training, that's just a whole separate training. is to import a test in. So we're going to start this training with one already there, but I am going to build one from scratch when we go to using Proctorio with a third-party site like Alex or Mymathlab or a science website, something like that, and show you kind of one way that you can do it. There's actually several. So the first thing here is I've got a test here, but I don't have Proctorio downloaded, and I don't have it linked to this test at all. And a couple ways I know is that it just says test number 1 in Blackboard. Once it's linked with Proctorio, it will have a different title, something tagged onto the end that you'll see in just a second. So first and foremost, you have to use the Chrome web browser. You as an instructor do to get it set up and to analyze the results, and the students do. Chrome web browser is free and can be downloaded almost on any device. So just keep that in mind. I'm personally not a Chrome fan. I never use Chrome. So I always open Firefox and then I'm like, I gotta go to Chrome. But it's very easy because if you're trying to use Proctorio and you're not in Chrome, there are these huge, and I'm talking big, red squares that say, hey, you gotta use Google Chrome. So there's really no like mistake, and it will remind you. So the first thing I'm gonna do is download what's called the Proctorio plugin that works with the web browser. Now I'm not a techie, but somehow that stuff works together and it's amazing. Most of us use lots of plugins on our web browser and don't even know it. Some of them even download automatically, which is scary. But so I'm going to go to Tools, and I'm going to go to Secure Exam Proctor. That is the same thing as Proctorio. So I'm going to click that. And again, I'm going to go a little fast so I can get all the information in. So I think it's best for you to watch, maybe take a few notes, but really the best thing if Proctorio is totally new is for it to sink in on how the product works. And then you can go back and watch this video because it is being recorded and get all the details and pause it and follow along and things like that. So the first thing, Tools, Secure Exam Proctor, and then you want to name it exactly Secure Exam Proctor, spelled correctly, capital letters, everything. I've actually heard conflicting reasons on why it has to be that exact, so I honestly don't have the answer, and I'm not going to go into the reasons that I've been told. So I think it's just best to do it so that it doesn't, so that it works properly. Bottom line is it has to be named this to work properly. Sure.
So how did you get to test number 1? Does your tests tab in Blackboard lead to test number 1?
Yes, this is already pre-set up. So if you're confused, like, whoa, how'd you get to that test? Just write that down and know that you need some training on how to import a Blackboard test. It's a whole separate training. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay.
So
yeah, I'm starting out.
This tests, is it just an item? So did you, after creating tests, did you just go to build content? Okay.
It's an assessment that I built.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
So it's something I previously built before joining with you guys. So
got it. Thank you.
Here, you're welcome. Tools, Secure Exam Proctor. And again, as I'm doing it, please don't let this overwhelm you, because maybe I'm talking to myself. I get really overwhelmed when like these new things, and then after you use it, it's like, wow, that was really no big deal. It is recommended that users are able to view this content, so make sure that you have this clicked yes right here. There's really nothing else you need to put in here. You're really just making sure that you're downloading that within your course. So I'm just going to hit submit, and then you've got this icon right here. What that does is you've imported it into your Blackboard, but now you have to make sure that the plugin is downloaded, and all you have to do is take your mouse and click it one time, and it will automatically download that plugin and install it with your Chrome. It might have a pop-up that says, hey, do you want to install this? but you're actively doing it, so yeah, you want to install it. So just click yes or allow. Every computer is going to be a little different. So it tells us, hey, mine's successfully installed, woohoo. I'm going to return to my course, so I'm just going to go right back to my test. So now I've downloaded this. I guess it's really a plugin, but I'm going to use the word Proctorio because it is the service that I essentially am linking. So I've downloaded Proctorio, and now I'm going to put it with this test, or link it with the test, or put it on the test, however you want to say it. So my test was already pre-built. I'm going to go to test options. And these are your normal test options if you've ever done a Blackboard test. I would definitely, show the instructions before the test. I personally don't. These are really up to you as an instructor. So this is how I would have them set. I don't allow multiple attempts, so that's not there. I do want to set a timer because that's important for me in my math class. I just chose 90 minutes for this demo. But if you're going to set a timer, go ahead and set it up now before we get down to the Proctorio tools, because we're not seeing those yet. Do not put in a password because it's just going to change it anyway if you're using Proctorio. So there's no sense in putting anything there. Obviously, I can put in a due date for this demo. I'm just not. You do want to include this in the testing grade center, and I'll point that out at the end because that's where you're going to view the Proctorio results, all the recordings of your students. So it's really important that you have that and that they're not hidden. So at the very bottom of the test options, after you've downloaded that plugin and you see that icon, this will pop up. If I'd shown you the settings before I downloaded that and clicked on it, the little camera icon, this wouldn't be here at all. You wouldn't even see Proctorio settings. But now that I've downloaded it, it's there. So I'm going to click on it, and what it opens is a full toolbar of your Proctorio settings, and these are the things that I really want to dig into. Let me go. Are there any questions so far? I don't see any in the chat, but I just want to make sure that we're rolling okay. Cool. Okay, I'm going back to Chrome. Okay, here are my test settings. I'm going to quickly go through what they all mean, but I'm going to show you really the best thing to do is when you hover over one of these tools, because you as the instructor are going to have to choose which of these tools you want to use in your test. It's your test as an instructor. It's your class. It's your rigor. It's how you want to set it up. So if you choose to use Proctorio, which is required by all math faculty at TCC, I don't know about other disciplines, but this is kind of your playground where you get to pick and choose. So far, Patrick, these are Blackboard settings. They're Proctorio settings, but they're within Blackboard, yes. So they're within the Blackboard test. So if you hover over each one, there's this little blue circle with a question mark. And to me, I know there's a lot of these little tiles here, but it is worth your time to click on it and watch every single one. They are extremely short, and they do, I think, a really good job of telling you exactly what that specific option or feature does. So I'm gonna click on one in a minute. I'm not gonna click on the record video, but I'll show you how that works. But I think that's the best thing to do to learn this product, is to click on every single one of these blue circles so that you know what things you want to put in your test. See, they all have it. It's pretty cool. So record video is kind of the point of Proctorio, is it uses their webcam to view the student. So they're actually being recorded. The system is in line with all FERPA rules, so we don't need to worry about that at this time. They are able to be video recorded because they are heavily encrypted within Proctorio. Only the instructor has access to them. So for my Blackboard test, I'm going to record video, and notice when I click on it or when I choose to implement it in my settings, it turns blue. So I can turn it off by clicking it again, and then now it's gray or white. If it's white, it means it's not there. It means it hasn't, the function is not working at all, and you've chosen to not use it. So I'm going to record video. I definitely am going to record audio. That just means students need to have a webcam and mic so that, you know, I want to know if they're asking, hey, hey Sus, what's the answer to number 10? You know, I want to hear that. So those are things that are important to me in a math class. So I want to record what's going on. Record screen, that's just a screen capture, so you can see exactly what is on their screen, which is important if you don't want them jumping around on websites. If you don't want that, then record it. It has everything. I also want to record web traffic. That just means if somehow they get to another website, it's going to tell you when you go to look at the results that, hey, it'll just give you a list of websites that the student visited. So if they went to like a help website or something that you don't allow, then you have access to it and you can see it. And in the results, you can even click on it and see where they went. The record room, again, I recommend to watch that to see the difference in the options. Some of the tools, when you click on them, they have multiple options. So you've got to choose one. So scan at start is what I personally recommend. Intelligent scan just means throughout the test, they have to scan their room, meaning they have to take their camera or their wherever their webcam is or laptop, whatever, and rotate it around the room just to make sure that they're in a safe testing environment and that their buddy's not sitting right in front of them, or a helper or a tutor or something like that. It's really up to you what you want to choose. I'm going to do scan at start, and then I'm going to come down to my lockdown options. Lockdown options, these on any test, these are just my go-to. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, click them, done. Okay, the lockdown options are the ones that are a little trickier depending on which test, whether it's Blackboard or third party. Remember, right now we're still in Blackboard. I'll show you third party in just a minute. So if you're testing within Blackboard, force full screen is the same thing as a lockdown browser, if you know what that is. What it does is it takes the test and it just expands the whole computer screen to where the student can do nothing on their computer. They can't get anywhere else on it but their test. It just, that's what the little arrows is. It just completely expands the test out on their whole screen. These leniencies, if I'm testing in Blackboard, I do want to use the lockdown browser because I want them to stay on the test and only the test for my math test. But I do want that 50-second leniency because I've had students in the past where they might have settings on their computer that they're not even aware of. I know I do. Where I've watched videos before and a Skype call popped up on a student's computer, and unless you give them some leniency, they can't close it. So they're sitting there taking their test and then they're all frazzled because they can't get out of this Skype call. So I think it's best to have some sort of leniency on that. 15 seconds, my goodness, that's pretty short. I don't think they can really go out of the test, look up a bunch of answers, and then come back in 15 seconds. So that's what I use, but again, that's what you need to think about. Only one screen means that it's only one monitor. So if you've used multiple monitors, then you know what I'm talking about. If you're a gamer, then you probably know what I'm talking about. You probably have multiple monitors. I don't, but that I definitely only want my students to use one monitor. And then no new tabs. You're going to also have options here, and it's really based on your test. You know, if you're an instructor and you want to allow them to navigate from their Blackboard test somewhere else, then you're going to have to allow tabs. I'm going to say no new tabs because I don't want them going anywhere. Some of these tools work together, meaning if I turn off the full screen view, so I've got that turned off. Let me see, I'm going to turn that one off too. And then I'm going to go back to the full screen. I'm going to do 15 seconds. See how it automatically turned this one on for me? So you just kind of, those are going to be hard to learn without you just playing around with how they're all interlocked together, because some work together and some don't. So one screen, no new tabs. If you're on a lockdown browser, you're not going to be able to allow tabs. So if I were to come in here and allow tabs, it would take off my lockdown browser. You've got to think about what the tools are doing and how they interact together. But if you click on it and try it, it'll just take it off for you. So you just need to pay attention to what is blue and what is whited out. I personally would recommend also always disable printing. You don't want students printing your tests, right? Unless you do, but I don't. But see how when I click that, all of these turned green? That just means that those are recommended if I'm going to use this, which I definitely want their clipboard disabled, meaning they can't copy and paste problems from my test and share them. I do want to block downloads because while they're taking my test, they don't need to be downloading anything. Clearing cache is clearing their history in their web browser and clearing traces of the exam after they take it. Disable right click I always use because you can right click and copy or right click and print or right click and print and do things like that. So in a test, for my test, there's no reason for them to need to right click. This one right here is prevent reentry, and it's one that has options. And again, I would click on all these little question marks if you really want to know what every single tool is. So I'm gonna do that in just a second, and I'll show you that. But no reentry, totally up to you, but it is a pain. I would not recommend using that one personally, because if a student gets kicked out because of their internet connection, which is sometimes common, especially with everyone being remote these days, then the student's locked out and it's really a hassle to get them back in. There are ways, there's several different ways, but it's just a pain on the instructor because you might have 100 students and you don't want to have to go and let 20 students back in individually. So either re-entry with agent or allow re-entry is what I would recommend. But again, this is your test. Re-entry with agent means that the student has to contact Proctorio, which they do immediately, and my Proctorio staff takes care of it. So it really relieves a lot of work on you if you let Proctorio handle it, because something will pop up and it'll let the student either live chat or call in immediately, and they'll be immediately let back into their test. Proctorio has they get information that, oh, hey, this student was kicked out due to their bandwidth or their internet connection wasn't good. So they can kind of feel out the reasons, and they can let them back in. If you allow reentry, that means the student can freely go in and out of the test. But if the student starts the test, even if they leave the test and come back, they're still tied to this 90 minutes. So if that concerns you, like, whoa, I don't want my students leaving the test and going to look up stuff and then coming back, you might do the agent. But if you feel like, no, in 90 minutes, there's no way they're even gonna have time to leave and look up stuff and come back, then it would be easiest on the instructor to just not implement this tool, meaning you're clicking allow reentry, meaning it's white. It means it's not being used at all. And I have to put myself out there. It was very frustrating to me when I first started this, when I would click prevent reentry and go up here and click allow reentry. I want this thing to say allow reentry because that's what I just clicked. I could not figure out what was going on. But what's going on is you're allowing reentry, meaning you're not even implementing this tool. So instead it just makes it white. And it took me 2 hours and calling another colleague to figure that out. So just so you know. So I'm gonna leave this as allow reentry. So it's off. What does the agent do? Neela, I'm looking in the chat. Neela, the agent is someone that works for Proctorio. So the student, to get back in the test, has to call or live chat in an instant chat. It's very fast with Proctorio. And they say, hey, I just get kicked out of my test. How can I get back in? And then a staff at Proctorio will let them back into the test. So the instructor's not involved at all. If that worries you, then I wouldn't do it, but it's pretty safe feature to let that agent handle that. It really is just going to save you a lot of headaches. Are there any questions so far? Yes, an agent, Randall, is a member of Proctorio. I don't know if you were asking or answering someone else, but an agent is a member of Proctorio. They are staff of Proctorio and get paid by Proctorio. Janae, your hand's up. What's up?
Hi. Do the students get notified that like we're recording their screen and, you know, Big Brother essentially? Like, is that something that we need to disclose to them, or like what is the best practice in that regard?
Okay, that is a great question, and it is all outlined to them before they take the test, and I'll show you when I'll move along, but when I show you the student view, you'll see that the student sees that. So no, I mean, I personally am going to disclose it to my students, but no, it is displayed on their screen before they begin the test. Does that answer your question? Cool. All right, I'm going to real quick show you, kind of lied and said I'm going to do that one. I don't know, really, they're all great, but I'm going to click on the blue question mark because I just want to see, I want to show you where it takes you. It takes you to Proctorio's site, and it shows you, well, that's not what it's just showing me. Let's try that again. Well, that's frustrating. Let me try another. That's never happened to me before. Just happens to be happening in my presentation. So cool. All right, so I don't know why that one wouldn't pull up. It has never done that before. So I went to record audio and click that blue question mark. Really, best thing to do. It brings you right to it, and look, it's 44 seconds. And Proctorio will tell you what that specific feature does. And you can just click play, and it will tell you what's going on with that feature. So I'm not going to go through all those, but I am going to recommend, again, for the millionth time, for you to click on each one of those. It's really the best way for you to learn it. And again, they're 45 seconds. They're like, the longest one I've seen is like 1.5 minutes. So to cover this whole row, you know, you got 5 of them. It's 5 minutes. And then you're, I'm not sure an expert, but then you know about all of these tools. Any questions? We okay? Audra, I'm about to talk about that in just a second on the lock AI feature so that we can essentially only use the lockdown feature. Barbara, Audra, I'm going to show the lockdown and which ones that have been recommended not to use and why in just a second. Barbara, do you have a question? Your hand's up.
Yes, I was just wondering, what about if we have students that do not have a webcam on their computer? I mean, should we recommend in advance that they try to get a computer from the library that would have a webcam? But it seems like if they don't have a webcam, that's going to mean a lot of the Proctorio recording features aren't going to work, you know?
Correct, and that's a great question. So I'm going to answer that from 2 different perspectives. So I am math faculty. Every single math faculty is required to use it. So for students who are in a math class, they are required to have a webcam and microphone and the proper system requirements. If they do not, they must drop the class. As of right now, that is our ACT decision. It is my understanding that no other discipline is enforcing that. So I don't know if you're a math person or not, but if you're not, it's really up to the instructor. If you have students that do not have a webcam, you can either ask them to get one, but if they're not able to get one, I would recommend being flexible, and you're not going to be able to use Proctorio. But if you think it's that important, I would get with your ACT, your discipline team, and talk about it. The math people, we thought it was important, and so it went through our ACT. But you're correct. But what you don't want to do, what you definitely don't want to do, for just equity and to be fair, is you don't want to use Proctorio for some students and not for others, because that's, you're putting yourself in a real bind there, because students will talk, and if they catch wind that, whoa, I'm being recorded and you're not, and we're in the same class, there's just going to be some trouble brewing with that. So that's how I would answer that, Barbara. If you have any questions on whether or not you're required to use it, I would ask your department chair. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, cool. It doesn't prevent cell phone usage, other than they are being recorded, and if you can see on their screen when you get the results, if the student is constantly looking down and fidgeting with their arms, or you see their phone, then yeah, you can see it. But you're right, this is not a catch-all product. It is just a layer of protection. So does it do everything, and is it perfect? Absolutely not. Some instructors will have the student, they will instruct them, hey, point your webcam slowly down on your desk so that I can see that beforehand. But, you know, I don't know, a student could have their cell phone at their feet and then pull it up with their toes. I don't know. It's not going to stop everything. But it for one, students, when they're being recorded, kind of like I am now, it's kind of freaking me out. So just them knowing they're being recorded kind of stops a lot of that, because they're too scared to do it. Of course, some aren't. It's not a catch-all. No, you don't. Okay, we'll get to that in just a second, Fred. Hopefully, I'm gonna move super fast now, because I know there's just a ton of questions about Proctorio, and we could spend hours here. But let me move on, and Fred, I'll touch on that in a second. But no, absolutely not. You're not going to have to watch 90-minute video of each of your students. Obviously, that's not realistic. That's the beauty of Proctorio, is it flags certain areas, and you can scan a whole student's recording in like 2 minutes. Once you actually use the product and you get the results, then you'll be able to see how easy it is. It flags certain areas that you go right to and can view. But let me go to these verification options. So the verification options, the VP, Vice President, Academic Council, recommends that the verify video is turned off and the verify ID is turned off. The rest you can use if you want. Verify signature is not important to me, so I'm not ever going to use that. Verify login is another way that you can use a third-party site, but I'm not even going to go into that, so I just wouldn't mess with that unless you're really wanting to learn it, and then have at it. Click this right here. This one's about a 5-minute video because it goes in depth. I don't want to use it, so I'm not going to. But it is recommended to not use the verify video or the ID. And that is because the software's AI system, the verify ID is where the student holds an ID up and puts their face in the camera, and then Proctorio verifies that the faces match. But I don't know that our technology with any company is there yet. Well, maybe Apple's, but it's not working properly. And some students are not getting verified when they should be. It's not picking up on every skin tone and things like that. So it is recommended that these are turned off. It's kind of a bummer, because then you can't verify that the actual student that enrolled in your course is the one taking the test. But again, it's just a layer of a protection. It's not a 100%, hey, this is gonna be the same as testing in classroom where there's no cheating and things like that. Verify audio just verifies that their microphone is working, and Verify Desktop just verifies that Proctorio is able to record their screen. That's it. It's kind of like the setup, and I'll show you in just a second on the student view, because it will test their video and test their audio and stuff like that. I am going to I'm going to go ahead and leave this off because it is recommended, and then that's it. I've seen some videos where they just turn all these off and just close this so they're in line with what's been recommended by TCC, and that's totally fine too. I just want to have these two on so that the student knows that everything's working properly before they start the test. That's all that those are doing. In quiz tools, I'm going to allow a scientific calculator, a whiteboard. I'd rather than work on paper. I mean, those are your kind of decisions. This, I'm not going to go into detail, but you can review a summary after you choose all your options. And then the behavioral settings are what are pretty interesting. These you can change after students take their tests, and it's really neat actually. You can see the results and you can play around with these behavioral settings so that it doesn't flag as many things or whatever. But personally, I would just leave everything that's automatically set and not even look at these two unless you just really want to know. But I don't dig into these and change anything because these two setting groups are decided by these tools up here that are in blue. And then we're at the very bottom. So that was long, but I'm in the test options. And I did all that, Proctorio options, and then I click submit. And then it's ready to rock. But you'll notice that the test now says remotely proctored. So if your test does not say that, then it's not working right. The best thing to do is to completely delete this, is to uninstall that plugin, get rid of it, and reinstall that plugin and start over. You don't have to build the test over, you just have to put the options back in the test. I'm gonna jump to, it does test, Cliff, it does test audio and video for each test, for each student, yes. Are there any questions before we move forward? Barbara, do you have a question? Is your hand still?
No, I have a question. Basically, is Proctorio, I may have missed this at the very beginning, but is Proctorio always done live, or is it designed where the student can take it anytime they want to? It's set up to be just recording while they are individually taking it, or do they all have to take it at the same set time so that you can be there watching? I mean, I know that you could watch the video later, but
no, the Proctorio is where students, it's working in the background and it records the students whenever they take the test. They do not have to all take it at the same time. It's an individual recording per student. So like for my test, I give them whatever, a 24-hour window. Students can take it anytime within that 24 hours, and Proctorio simply just records it and uses AI to put flags that might be like, hey, this might be cheating, we don't know, but you should check it out. And you get those, when I say flags, those are what are in, after the students take the test, they get their results. Does that answer your question, Barbara?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, awesome. All right, so I'm going to move forward again because I want to get to the third-party site, because this is really supposed to be a 45-minute session. I'm going to tell you right now, we're going to 2 o'clock. But again, this is being recorded, so if you need to leave, it's fine. Third-party is very important for my math peeps, and myself, because I do not plan on testing in Blackboard. So let's jump into that. So ignore this completely. Right now, I would delete it, but I just want to keep it there. So if I'm going to make a test in, say, Mymathlab, a completely different website, or Alex for a knowledge check, or Connect Math, or WebAssign, or just something outside of Blackboard, what I want to do is create some area where the students can go to it, because what you're essentially doing is building a fake test in Blackboard that triggers Proctorio to start recording, and then the student can go to a new window and take their test in Alex, Connect Math, or Mymathlab, or the third-party website, and then come back to Blackboard and close it down. So it sounds kind of weird, but it's just the only means we have for it to work. So I'm going to start from scratch on this because my test is fake. This is literally a fake test in Blackboard that I'm going to create. I'm going to name it Test 1 in Mymathlab because I'm going to do my pre-calculus test in Mymathlab and not Blackboard. So Test 1 in Mymathlab, and then down here, you can put a bunch of descriptions, instructions, whatever, but I'm just going to submit it. All it does is create the title. And then now I need to create a question. I only need one question because this isn't even where my test is. All of this is bogus, it's fake, it's just to trigger the Proctorio. But the students have to go here first. So what I've done is I'm going to create, you don't have to say it just like this, but in my question text, so this is just question 1 on the test. The students are going to see, do not close this window. Please click or copy below link. This link is where my actual real test is. This is the third-party site right here. This is where you want to put a link to the homepage for Alex, a homepage for Connect, WebAssign, whatever your third-party site is. And give them some directions. So I'll give them directions outside of the test, in an email, but also right here. So please click or copy the link below to open your MyLab test. My students will know what MyLab is because that's where they'll be doing all their homework. So this isn't going to be foreign to the student. Once they're logged into MyLab, I put a password on the test that's in the third-party site, and I put the password here instead of emailing it to the student or whatnot. What that does is it forces the student to come here first so they don't forget, because they won't be able to open the test in the third-party site without the password, and they'll be like, whoa, where do I get the password? So they'll either email you, and you can tell them, probably again, remind them, hey, you've got to go through the Blackboard test or whatever, and the password's there. So Trophy Cat, just whatever. Once you've completed your test in MyLab, come back to this window to submit it, and then you're finished. And then the actual question is, did you complete the test in Mymathlab? Now, if you remember, I chose a multiple choice, so my only options are going to be yes, no. Again, this is a completely fake test, but you need it to trigger Proctorio. And that's all I need is that one question. And yes, I'm going to submit it. And now I've got my one question and I'm done. I've built this fake little test because my real test is built in my third-party site. So after you click OK, it's going to come here, Test 1 in MyLab. That's the one that I just built. So I'm going to submit that. And then it's going to take me to my testing options. But I'm going to cancel it because I want to show you something. All right, if you'll notice, this one is colorful and this one is not colorful. If it is not colorful, then the students don't have access to it. It says right here it's hidden from the students. It has to be colorful or the students will not be able to find it. So I just wanted to kind of point that out because it could be frustrating if the students aren't able to get it and they're emailing you, but it's just in the test options. It's just something easy to forget. But opening a new test window, it really doesn't matter. Honestly, these test options right here don't matter because the real test is in your third-party site. So make it available to students, yes, because that's what's going to make it colorful and make the students have access to it. I'm not giving an announcement. Multiple attempts really doesn't even matter because this isn't even for a grade. It was a one question yes or no. Everyone's going to get a 100 on this fake test. My real test is in Mymathlab, my third-party site, where I'm going to pull the grades like I usually do. So all these settings, I don't need to set a timer here because I'm going to set a timer in the third-party site on those test options. Password, I don't need any of this stuff. I really don't even need a due date, but I probably would put in a due date to match my third-party site just so that the students don't get confused. And then down at the very bottom, you've got remote proctoring, and it's the same drill. But you need to be very careful on these settings because they're not going to be the same as what I just showed you before with Blackboard, because now you want the student to open a new tab and go to a different website. So that's got to change these. You can't use the full screen. You can't lock down the browser because then they're not going to be able to go to the third-party site. So that has to be off. I do only want them using one monitor. It doesn't mean one window. It means one like TV screen, one monitor that they're looking at. Pretty tech-savvy people with multiple monitors scare me because they can do a lot of different things on those different monitors. Disable new tabs. You've got some choices. The easiest thing is to allow to open new tabs because that's going to allow the student to click on that link to your test. They have to open a new window. If you were to put no new tabs, then there's no way the student can link, because when they click on that link to Mymathlab or Alex, it won't let them because I've said no new tabs. So I've got to turn that off and allow it, meaning it's white. It's just not implemented. Again, I don't want them printing anything, even though this isn't where my test is. Prevent reentry, because my test is in a third-party site. I'm gonna allow either one of these. You want, if they get kicked out of the Blackboard tab, the Proctorio stops recording. It's shut down. So this has to be but it has to be working in the background. So if the student does get kicked out, they still need to be let back into that Blackboard test so that the recording can continue. So you just have to make a decision for what you want for your test. Again, it is recommended that this one is off and this one is off, but I'm going to include those two. I don't care about the signature. And then this is really what your own personal preference. And then I'm going to click submit. And then I have set up my fake test in Blackboard for students to go to it. So my students will come here, wherever you set it up. They will click on this to take their test. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to show you a video of the student side. So I'm going to show you a student clicking on this and what it does and so forth. But before I show that, it's pretty quick, but let me check if there are any questions. Dr. Laredo, thank you. I do have that on my notes ready to go, but there is a feedback form here that Dr. Laredo put in the chat. It really, I know we get tired of doing these, but it really makes a difference, and that's how we make change. So, give us some feedback on this that's in your chat window. Neela, should test in Mymathlab be made visible? Yes. If your test on the third-party site is not visible, then the students aren't going to be able to get to it. So you absolutely want to coordinate. It sounds really funny, but you want to coordinate with your third-party site, which is Mymathlab or Alex or whatever, and Blackboard. You want to coordinate those when it's visible. Does that answer your question, Neela? Awesome. All right, so let me go to, you're welcome. Let me go to show you top secret stuff here. I worked with IT to be a student in my shell, and then I used the device to kind of record my screen because I wanted, as an instructor in your course, you cannot roll through Proctorio as a student. It just won't allow it. So you have no access to the student interface, which drives me bananas. I always want to know what the student interface is so that I can help them, so that I know what they're actually seeing. So do you guys see a new screen of mine with a big play button in the middle? Can someone verify that? Yes, thank you. Okay. I know it just went away, and I'm gonna bring it back. Don't worry. Or worry, whatever. Okay, it should be back in just a second. So I'm gonna play this, and I'm gonna turn the audio off because the audio isn't anything. So just watch. This is me. I'm a student. Clicking test, and I'm gonna go into each one of these. And this is the student experience. So first I tried the Blackboard test. It's gonna give me my test settings. I'm gonna pause this. If we get, I think someone's mic is on, and I don't know if y'all can hear it, but it's causing a lot of static on my end. So if you can make sure that your mic is off, awesome, thank you. All right, so I'm gonna go back to this and hit play. So the students begin, and then it pops up that password screen, but notice how I paused it. Notice how it went super fast. Your students should never need a password. That is protected by Proctorio. Proctorio behind the scene puts that password into the Blackboard test. Remember, this is not for a third party right now. I'm taking a test in Blackboard. Janae, these are all before you begin. This is what the student's gonna see. So if they don't read it, I can't help them. But this is where it tells them, hey, we're recording you. Hey, we're deleting all your cache. We're deleting your current clipboard, all those type things. So I would encourage your students to read through this. Some will and some won't.
Now exiting.
Usually when students are nervous and they're taking an online test, they'll read it through it. And then begin the test. I'm gonna skip along because we're running out of time. Right now is what the student sees, where it's doing the diagnostics test. Oh, it couldn't detect my desktop, so it redoes it. Now it sees me. That's not me now. That was a recording, so it's really strange to see myself recorded. And then the student has to read that over and accept those. And then this was the Blackboard test where we did the full screen. So notice that my full screen is just locked out and I'm in this math test. Now, and then I just picked some bogus answers, so whatever, and then submitted it. These are the tools that I'm pointing out with my mouse clicker that the student has access to. It shows their face as they're being recorded and all that kind of stuff. I'm going to, and then they just take the test and they submit the test and then it's a done deal. I'm gonna move forward in this recording because I want to show you what it will look like when a student, so now I'm a student and gonna take a test in a third-party site. So I'm gonna go up here and that's gonna be my one in Mymathlab or whatever you named it. So Neela, if you have your test in Mymathlab, this is where your students would go. They get their instructions. They click begin. Let's go. They're shown all that. They go through the same diagnostic test just to make sure everything's working correctly. And then this one question pops up that I made up. But what it does is the student just needs to click on that link right there. And then a new window opens up and bam, they're at their site and they should know what to do from here. So my students will be using Mymathlab every day. They'll know where to go from here. It'll take them to the Alex homepage or the Connect homepage, whatever. But notice that it's got Blackboard working in the background in a different window. And I'm on a new window where my real test is. So this is Mymathlab and I don't really have a test in here. This is just a fake course I set up. But the students would know what to do. They take their test here, and then they have to go back to this Blackboard and close out the Blackboard, submit this test, Jump forward a little too far. We're gonna run out of time. So they're done up here, then they come back to this window. Yes, I completed my test, save and submit, done deal. So that's how they would test on a third-party site versus the Blackboard site. That's the student view. After the students take the test, where you get the results is in the grade book. I'm gonna show you super fly fast. I'm not gonna even go into detail because it's a whole nother training, but your grade center, when you set up a test in Blackboard, in Blackboard, it automatically makes a column here for it. And when you click on this, I don't have any students in the sandbox, but here it will say View Proctorio Gradebook. Click that, and that's where all your videos are, and you can scroll through them very fast. I don't like my students to see this. They're automatically created, so I just hide them, especially the one in Mymathlab, because that's not where their real grade is. This is going to be piled with a bunch of 100s because they clicked yes. But the real grade's in that third-party site. So I definitely want to hide that. So, I want them to do well, but I don't want them to all go in and think they made 100 on their test and then be disappointed when they made a 98. You know what I'm saying? So, I'm really out of time. I could go further, but I definitely want to get some lingering questions. Or if you want to stay and type something in the chat, what I'm going to do is just scrape off all the questions and put them in a document and have answers to everyone, and then I will make sure that everyone who attended today gets a copy of this recording and a copy of a document that will have some help tips and also answers to all of these questions if we're not able to get to them, because I'm totally out of time. So it is 2:00 if you have another breakout to go to, but I'm going to stay in here and answer these questions as long as people have them. So I see sadness that people left, but I'm going to assume that they had to leave. Okay, great. Cliff, will the student view video be made available separately? It is, and it's in that grade book. It's really hard to explain until you actually have one, but after your students take the test, if you view that Proctorio gradebook, you'll see a list of every student, and it'll have their video. And if you click on it, no, you're not watching a 90-minute video. That would be insane. Proctorio quickly scans and flags areas. Hey, you might want to go check this area out. And you can click on like a certain spot in the video and see if maybe they were getting help from a friend or something like that. It actually goes very quickly. Neela, so do they have to click on both Test in Blackboard and Test in Mymathlab? Yes. That's the crummy part about it, is that they have to go through this fake test in Blackboard to get to the real test in the third-party site, which is what Neela's calling Mymathlab. But, once the students do it once, they're going to be fine. The first test, there might be some confusion. It's okay. It's totally okay. I would show your students grace. They're learning a new thing. But by test 2, they're going to know exactly what to do. My dog is now whining in the background, so I'm going to let him out the door super fly fast. Okay, sorry about that. So hopefully that answered your question, Neela. You're welcome, you're welcome, you're welcome. Daisy, if they close the Blackboard tab, does it end the third-party test as well? No, because they're not linked at all. It's like you're faking it to link. What you're doing is you're triggering with the fake test in Blackboard. And I'm using the word fake because that's what it really is. It really is a fake test. What it does is it just triggers Proctorio to open and start running. So if the student closes the Blackboard tab, their Proctorio is going to be shut down, which you don't want, but their Mymathlab is still going to be running because it's in a totally different web window. If a student does that by mistake, I would call them out on it and say, hey, you've got to remember to keep this open the whole time. Again, on test 1, I would show grace, work with the student, but by test 2 is when I'm not going to have tolerance for that. They're going to have, for my personal opinion, they're going to have to retest, or we're going to have to come up with a solution, because I have to have that trust piece in my testing. Daisy, does that answer your question? I'm going to assume it does. Yep, it will be recorded. We are being recorded. You're welcome. Cliff, I mean, will something like this student view video be available to share with students? No. Cliff, you've asked a very good question, and I'm gonna give an answer right now, and the question is that's tricky to answer right now. I'm gonna tell you that no, and then I'm gonna also let you know, meaning the students will not be able to screen record it like I showed you, but this is not a perfect product. I do believe it can be cracked, and that's okay. It's just a layer of protection. I will be, for my department, putting together some documents of kind of, hey, what to look out for. So Cliff, you'll get that from me, but that's a really good question. Barbara, I teach art history. Oh my gosh, my art history class in undergrad was so hard. And would like to have the students look at images that they will identify in the written test. Can I get the PowerPoint of the numbered slides that they can click through? Yeah, you just need to allow other windows and applications. So don't use Barbara, don't use the lockdown browser. And then the students can click. What I'd put is a link to this PowerPoint in the test so the students can just quickly click on it. But as long as you don't have the lockdown on, or the force full screen, then they'll be able to open anything. So you should be able to open up images or whatever you're wanting to open up. So it's not that Proctorio is going to work with PowerPoint. It's not that Proctorio is going to work with a third-party site. It's you are tricking, kind of tricking out the program by triggering Proctorio to run by having the student open that fake test, and then they're free to do anything. It's just a screen recorder. They can go and make a TikTok video, and it's going to be recorded. I mean, you can do anything outside of Blackboard as long as you don't have the force full screen, and it's going to record it. And the students can have access to it in the test. So yeah, that would allow, Barbara, would that require allowing tabs? Absolutely. Because again, that force full screen and the tabs, those two tools, you'll notice they work together. But yeah, you can't have the full screen on, and you have to allow tabs so that they can open it. So one tab would be for PowerPoint, one for written test. And yes, they could toggle in between them, and it'll just be recorded the whole time. I'm going to read a couple more of these questions, and then I'll get to you, Janae. Did you make a video on what students should do on their end? Have I? No. Am I going to? Yes, but I'm not there yet for the fall. Neela, I guess I would recommend either making a document, step-by-step document for your students, or a short video if you're capable of doing that, because they're going to need to know what to do. They're going to be super confused too. If you're new to this, you're probably a little confused right now, and that's okay. They're going to be confused too. But again, if you can get through the first test, just help them. Once they get through the first test, they got it. They know what to do. No. Duck, I'm not having another session, but this one's being recorded, so everyone will have access to it. Click on this, then click on this. Now go to this place. You got it. It's crazy. I know, but you'd be surprised at students are on computers every day. You know, it's not. It's really, if you get down to clicks, it's really not that many clicks. But yes, it is. It's not beautiful and seamless. Audra, what do the students need to do to set up Pretoria on their end before the first test, if anything? That's a great question too. The best thing to do is inform them. First of all, they have to use Chrome, but for the plugin, just have them take the test. Click on the test, and a pop-up will come up that says, hey, you have to have Proctorio. Click here to download. It will walk them through it. I personally think that's probably the best way to do it, but you could also have students go to getproctorio.com and download it ahead of time. It's getproctorio.com. That's where the plugin is. Students can go there ahead of time. But again, if they don't have it and they're trying to take a test, it forces them to get it anyway and gives instructions. So it kind of walks them through it. From what I know, which is little, I'm not an expert, is that the instructors have more trouble with it than the students do. So it's pretty seamless on their end. It's just there's so many features on our end that we get all like overwhelmed and like, whoa, this is crazy. But just keep it simple at first, and maybe every test kind of up your game, you know, learn a new feature or something like that. Audra, I hope that answered your question, but again, we will get all these answered in a document. If you need to leave. It's like, that's not for me, that's not for me. You're welcome. I don't see any other questions in the chat that I can be helpful for, but please put them in there. Again, I will capture them all and create a document with an answer. If I don't know the answer, I'll find the answer. Someone knows the answer. I know a lot of people who are experts with Proctorio, and I'll just get the answers for you. Would you share the directions in your fake test where we give the third-party link? Absolutely. I will be sharing with my team. Terry, you're on my team. So I will be sharing a step-by-step instructions and this video on how to set that up. Will the setting, Kristen, will the settings stay for all the tests? The settings, I'm not sure I understand that question, but the settings are per test. So no, every time you create a test, you have to redo the settings. But if you read through the Proctorio, you can save profiles so that you don't have to keep doing it every time. Like if you know, hey, I'm going to use these tools every single time, then you can set a profile, and then when you make test 2, you can just click on that profile and it's done. So it can be really fast. But no, it doesn't automatically put the same settings on each test. Hopefully that answered your question. I believe that's Dr. J. I can't see your first name. Sam, should we have our live lectures during the time and date the students originally signed up for? Sam, I'm going to answer that offline just because it's not within the scope of Proctorio, but I will get to that. But Sam, if you go to our discussion board on our math department page for Trinity, that is answered in the fall 2020 discussion board. Terry, thank you very much. Hey Yezdi, miss you. Anything else? Janae, sorry, your hand's up. Sorry, go for it.
Thank you. So I saw that it populated a message when you were in the student view. Is that something that Proctorio does automatically, or is that language that we need to come up with? When there's like a disclaimer, like you're being recorded, we're using XYZ on computer.
That is automatic. You do not need to write any of that. From the setting, it just puts in like a canned verse, a canned sentence for each setting. Does that make sense?
Yeah, okay. I just wanted to make sure I knew what I was writing about, if that was my responsibility.
Yeah, for sure. And you know what?
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. You know what? If you can always put it in there in your instructions if you just want to cover yourself extra. The students will see it twice. But if you don't like their wording or whatever, you want to have your own wording or whatever, just put it in the instructions on the test. But yes, those are form. Oh, it's a hard sentence to get out. Those are automatic from Proctorio. Did that answer your question?
Is there would it be? I know that we can't view the student version without, I guess, going through IT the way that you did. Is
Correct.
there like a dummy template that we can kind of work from as far as like that Proctorio offers with those things, or?
Not that I'm aware of. That's why I had to go through IT. I would not recommend everyone in here bombard IT to do that. But if you're like me and hey, you really want to see that side, put in a help desk ticket. And hey, if they're too busy, they'll tell you. So if you want that, I'm an asker. I know they're busy, and I asked, and they did it. So if you want something, ask. Cheryl, it is a lot to digest. Absolutely. Is there a sign in? Nope. This is being recorded, so we have, or whoever has who was there. If you signed up through TCC Learn Center, it's automatically in your professional development. If you didn't sign up to the Learn Center, you'll have to manually add it into your Learn Center. Not a big deal. Get with your department chair or the TCC Learning, the CTL, Center for Teaching and Learning, and ask them for directions on how to manually input that so that you get credit for this professional development. Sorry, just thought of another question. No, you know what? I love the questions because I learn from them. Are they going to be able to have their scientific calculus scratch paper and pencil out? Good question. So, will they get flagged for looking at their paper to write? Is there any way to check what kind of calculator they're using? Okay, here is what I can recommend. And again, this does not catch everything. Proctorio is not a perfect product. I don't believe there is one. But I know that some math instructors, before a student starts a test, and these are directions that come from the instructor, and if the student doesn't do it, the instructor calls them out, and then, it's okay on test 1, but test 2, you have to do it. But you can ask your students to, pick up. First of all, if you're real worried about it, you can have them point their webcam down to their desk, or you can have them pick up their calculator if you only require certain models. I don't allow graphing calculators, only scientific for my courses. That's my personal preference. My screen's not letting my calculator show. So they can slowly, the key is very slowly, lift up their calculator and show it in the webcam, and that's being recorded. And then they can put it down, and then they can lift up their white paper to show, I only have white paper. They have to do it slow, or you get this recording of just this blur and you can't see it. So the key there is just for it to be very slow. So Audra, no, you can't, there's no way to record their face, their screen, and the top of their desk at the same time. So again, it's kind of just, you gotta take it for what it is, trust the students for that part, and roll with it. Hopefully that answers your question. Is there any way to check what kind of calculator? Again, just having them hold it up, that's the only way. If you only allow a scientific, you can just put the scientific one into the tools if you want, but I teach math. I want a specific calculator because this is the one I'm going to demo in with class. I think this is the best calculator on the planet, by the way. If you teach math, this is the best calculator on the planet. But so I recommend all my students get this. It's just a $12 calculator, but it's It's special and it does amazing things. So I would love to see my students flash this in the webcam and show me that they're using that versus a graphing one or whatnot. That's the only way that I am aware of. And I've spoken to some other math faculty who have kind of the same questions, Audra, and that's the only answers that I get. You cannot, Sam, no. It is recommended by TCC, do not show an ID card because it is not working properly. So do not verify video, do not verify ID. Those are the two tools that the vice presidents recommend not using. It is a recommendation because it is not working properly. It is not reading, sometimes it is, if the lighting is not perfect in the room, it is denying students tests or saying they're cheating or saying they're not who they are, stuff like that. It just needs to be some better technology before we start using that. Anything else, or? I mean, so we can see in the video. Yes, yeah, okay, now I see what you're saying. You can ask the student to lift up their ID card, but you have to tell the student to do that. But it's not gonna don't use the verify ID on the Proctorio tools. But that's a really good idea, Sam. If you want to have just the students hold up their ID so that you can see, at least they have the ID of the person that's supposed to be in the class, that's perfectly fine, just like a calculator. Yeah, you can have them hold up, I guess, anything you want them to. Just, again, have them do it slowly and pause for a second, or the students will just like flash it up and then you just see this blur and there's no way you can see it. Absolutely, Doug. New students might have trouble getting an ID, so if you are going to enforce the ID, I would ask your students to make sure that or allow them to use any ID, not just a TCC, because some students aren't able to get to campus to get that physical ID, and if they're new to TCC, they might not have one. So I'm glad you brought that up. Driver's license, something like that. Or if they don't have an ID, I would just, let them be honest with you beforehand. I would send, communication with your students is the key to everything. So if you send them, hey, this is what I'm going to require. If you don't have an ID or you feel like you can't do one of these things, reply back to me. Let's find a solution. No, I'm not going to kick you out of my class because you don't have a TCC ID. No, I'm not going to be mad. But we can come to a solution where it's like, oh, you don't have an ID. Okay, do you have a different ID? No. Okay, well, I'm still going to let you test. And I'm going to work hard to help you get an ID. That's how I would approach it. I'm going to wait one more minute to see if anything pops up in the chat. See, isn't that a beautiful lake? I love those things. I do not see anything popping up, and I do not see any hands up. So again, as Janae did, I am going to, I'm not, because my mouse stopped working. I am going to post something in the chat for feedback. It is, again, I know I get tired of doing these, but just take a minute and click on that. It really makes a difference, people. That's how you make change, is you speak up and you give your opinion and you give your feedback. I can take it. I'm tough. So please click that link and give me some feedback, and TCC.
Kristen.
Yes.
That link, I tried to tell Jeanette earlier that it was this way. The only breakout sections from 1 to 3 are hot topics in higher education and making MS Teams work. There's no Proctorio option.
I saw that too, and I'm going to it. Did you attend one of the? I'm glad you said that. Give me 1 second. Okay, if you choose on number 2, yeah, if you choose it, I did not attend one of those, another thing pops up, and then you're allowed to choose. Huh. It'd be cool if my mouse would work. Well, okay, I think you're totally right. So, well, I guess I was left off, poor me, and I'm not on there, so bummer. That's okay. You know what you should do is I'm gonna put because, hey, I don't expect too many. I know we're all busy. But my email is right here. If you're just like dying to tell me, hey, you did horrible at blah, blah, email me. I don't care. I mean, I care, but I can take it. So I would appreciate any feedback, or if you feel like we're missing anything, or if you have more questions, email them to me and I'm going to put them in a document. And then I will also let Dr. Laredo know. Thanks for pointing that out. I totally didn't know that I was, now I'm sad. Non-related question. What campus are you on? I am on the best campus, Trinity. No, I'm just kidding. I'm on Trinity. I'm the department chair of math at Trinity River campus. And then I come from the Northeast campus, so shout out to Northeast. I was an adjunct at Northeast and then faculty and department chair at Trinity. Trying to register and it's not able to. You can manually input it if you need, Holly, if you need directions on how to manually input training, email me and it's just easy for me to send them to you. You just have to type it in manually. It's not a big deal. You'll just have to add it so that it's on your professional development. Yeah, I'm not going to answer any TCC Learn Center questions because I don't know. Duck, are you on the, you're Southeast, right? Yeah. I think we were in a training a couple years ago together. But anyway. Okay, cool. I don't see anything else popping up, so I'm going to stop recording. And again, my email's up there. Feel free to reach out. My goal this week is to help as many people as I can, especially my own team. So it's just help. And then I'll switch gears to my own classes. So don't feel like I'm neglecting my students. I'll get to them. I will talk to everyone later.